Hi, this is Jordan Ramirez. Today's minisode is the fantasy drama The Green Knight from 2021, directed by David Lowery, a well-adapted film version of the Arthurian legend from the 14th century. So, without further ado, you are listening to a film talk with Jordan Ramirez minisode. The film I am recommending for this minisode is the fantasy drama film The Green Knight, directed by David Lowery, starring Dev Patel, Alicia Vikander, Joel Edgerton, and Ralph Ineson. Gawain, played by Dev Patel, nephew of King Arthur, is being challenged by the mysterious Green Knight, played by Ralph Ineson, to a game to test his courage. After Gawain beheads the Green Knight, he is now given a year to prove he has the courage to return his end of the bargain of playing the reverse role for chivalry and bravery. Gawain goes on his journey where he will meet several barriers and tribulations before meeting the Green Knight. For those who would think that this was going to be a fast action-paced film that would feature quick action scenes that you would find in today's studio films, this is not one of them. It is instead a slow-paced fantasy epic and a character study about Gawain and his journey. For the story structure of the film, it is divided into chapters, giving it an episodic feel. The chapters are Christmas Gift, A Too Quick Year, The Journey Out, A Kindness, A Meeting with Saint Winifred, An Interlude, An Exchange of Winnings, and A Beheading at the Green Chapel. Each of these chapters features Gawain having his courage tested with each of these separate events. Some of these events involve Gawain showing his vulnerabilities on his journey, whether it's helping out a scavenger who turns out to be a thief as an act of kindness, or finding the head of Winifred, the spirit who resides at an abandoned house, or resisting the lustful temptations of the Lord's wife. Dev Patel's performance as Gawain showcases the viewer his character depth and growth as the story progresses. But his affection and his love for Essel, played by Alicia Vikander, is tested when he resides in the home of the Lord, played by Joel Edgerton, and his wife, the lady, who looks like Essel, who is tempting Gawain with her lust to sleep with her. When it comes to symbolism, the film uses 4 different primary colors: red, blue, green, and gold or yellow. It is not just useful in the style or in the dialogue, but also in the choice when it comes to the character's clothing in the story as well. Red is traditionally the color of lust, as emphasized in one monologue sequence by the lady, played by Alicia Vikander, but it also signifies danger. A great use of this color scheme was in the sequence of Gawain retrieving the head of Winifred from the bottom of the lake that uses the red light shown in the water. Green often is a traditional symbol of the earth or of nature. But in the context of this story, it is often used as showing Gawain, who was inexperienced in the beginning of the story, wanting to have his story told anew to showcase his legacy, as well as being used by the Green Knight, the Green Earth as showcased in other sequences, or sometimes the arrival of the Green Knight as emphasized in the beginning of the film. Blue in the context of the story is used to represent composure, poise, wisdom, and truth. It is symbolically seen in the clothing that the lady wears in the chapter An Exchange of Winnings. Gold or yellow can be seen as a symbol of royalty in various cultures. However, in the context of Gawain's character, when he adorns a yellow cape, it also is a sign of fear and cowardice, as evidenced in the climactic sequence near the end of the film, A Beheading at the Green Chapel. I admit that when it comes to the visual style of shot positions for the characters in the film, the extensive use of close-ups in the film helps to illustrate the reactions that gives them great depth and flaws that are hidden in their emotions. David Lowery in an interview said that the choice of using close-ups was a creative choice, and that it was a reference to The Passion of Joan of Arc from 1928, which also used close-ups in the film to get up close and interact with the characters. This is the 3rd film adaptation of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight written by the Gawain poet. The story was originally published in the 14th century and has been retold many times over the years, including on film. David Lowery was influenced by fantasy films going all the way back to his youth, such as Willow and Excalibur. The idea of making a movie about a knight on a quest popped into my head, partially because I had just discovered my old Willow action figures. I settled on Sir Gawain and the Green Knight because I had read it in college, and the story had always stayed with me. I started reading it originally because I wanted a good jumping off point and thought I might be able to extrapolate something from it. Ultimately, I ended up adapting it page by page and writing the script simultaneously. From one page to the next, I was just rediscovering this legend, whilst translating that into a screenplay. Honestly, I didn't think it would get made, because as a movie it was just way too strange and difficult to pull off on a low budget. However, circumstances being what they were, somehow it got made, and got made very quickly. On November 2018, around the same time as his film The Old Man and the Gun was heading to theaters, David Lowery was announced as both writing and directing Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, with A24, Leyline Entertainment, and Braun Studios for financing this film. During the scriptwriting process, Lowery wanted to be faithful to the original story while making some changes to appeal to his audience. Lowery decided to make the character of Morgan Le Fay to be the mother of Gawain, since it would allow her to appear in the story naturally for her introduction. Some additions that were not in the original story included the highway robbery of Gawain in the chapter A Kindness, and the story of Saint Winifred, inspired by a brief mention of the holy head in the original epic poem. And the original ending for the film was meant to be filmed as explicit, but Lowery instead decided to opt out of this choice for fear of the audience backing away from the film that would affect them emotionally. For the cast of the film, Dev Patel was cast as Gawain in an announcement in March 2019, according to Variety. Around that same time, Barry Cogan and Ralph Ineson joined the cast. In April, Alicia Vikander and Ari Kellyman joined the cast as well. Filming took place in Ireland in March of 2019, with filming locations at Ardmore Studios, Cahir Castle at Count Tipperary, and Charleville Castle in Tullamore, County Offaly. Some of the set pieces in the film, like the Round Table, used matte paintings that were hand-painted instead of it being digital. The costumes in the film were created by Maglosia Tarzanska, who was inspired by the designs from South America for the crowns worn by the monarchs Arthur and Guinevere in the film. It was meant to symbolize Christendom in the West. The golden cape that was created by Tarzanska for the character of Gawain was meant to represent his golden mantle that also came from the original poem. The film was originally scheduled to premiere at the South by Southwest Film Festival on March 18, 2020, with a theatrical release on May 29th. However, the COVID-19 pandemic kiboshed the plans for the film to be released in theaters, and that Lowery mentioned that he would prefer the film being released in theaters instead of VOD. David Lowery was unhappy with the original cut that he ended up re-editing the film during the pandemic in 6 months before debuting at the South by Southwest Film Festival. In December 2020, A24 announced that the film would receive a theatrical-only release, opening in theaters on July 30th, 2021. The film was available on one streaming platform in the United States, the A24 Screening Room, that would allow viewers purchasing a $20 ticket that not only featured the film, but also a Q&A session with the cast and crew on August 18th. The film received positive praise and reviews when it was released in theaters. It received numerous accolades, including a spot on the top independent films for the National Board of Review Awards in December 2021. I may not be familiar with the stories and legends of King Arthur, but I did enjoy this film. The story, cinematography, performances, directions, and creative approach to this fantasy epic were all some of the positive strengths that made this film worthwhile. It may be a long film that feels slow from a storytelling perspective, but I think you will enjoy getting a kick out of it, just to enjoy the character depth, the story progression, and also the brilliant visualization that David Lowery and his entire cast and crew put together for this film. On the next episode of Film Talk with Jordan Ramirez, it's Tokyo Drifter from 1966, directed by Seijun Suzuki, airing this Friday at 4 p.m. on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Radio Public. This has been a Film Talk with Jordan Ramirez Minisode. Tune into the Minisodes every Monday at 12 p.m. on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Radio Public. If you want to be a guest on my special interactive video podcast, make sure to send your recommendation on the Film Talk with Jordan Ramirez Facebook page, or send your audition video on YouTube or Instagram Shorts. The video podcast will be on Spotify. If you are on Spotify, make sure to like and subscribe to keep this show going, and make sure to recommend your friends and family members to tune into this podcast. I also have my own YouTube channel, Film Talk with Jordan Ramirez, where you can watch my latest video podcast and make sure to like and subscribe. And until then, I'll see you at the movies.